Now, as a Steven Universe fan, I've come here to tell you guys I have found a manga series that I think every single Steven Universe fan needs to read. In a very weird instance of parallel thinking that I will cover more in depth as we get into the video, I have a series from Japan that covers anthropomorphic agender rocks that are fighting beings coming from outer space, not unlike the crystal gems that we know and love. But before we get into all of that, cue that theme song.
Manga, animator, anything, alright, let's do this. Weekly is the basis, worst generation, cooking up a feast while he's turning through the pages. Theories that he's making, from shonen to seinen, locked in, analyzing, using observation. Yeah, observation, rambling addiction.
Now, the series Hoseki no Kuni, or Land of the Lustrous, will be the series we're talking about today. And while I will be trying to sell you guys on reading the manga, we're going to be focusing on the one season of anime that we got on the series. And first thing I gotta say is, what a banger theme song. Now, as we are going to be talking about this anime, I have to say it is the perfect trailer for the manga itself, with anime only running for one season, as I had said, for 13 episodes, and it is the perfect place to start out if you're wanting to get into the series. That all said, Haruko Ichikawa, the mangaka, has written one of the best series that I've ever read. This went straight up into my top 5 as soon as I finished reading it, especially when it comes to seinen manga. The mangaka does an amazing job within the manga of painting a scene and framing it, and the anime adapts that perfectly. And the anime does a much better job of differing the characters, because you see, unlike the gems of the Steven Universe franchise, these gems' only discerning factor between them is their hairstyles. So when you get into the black and white of manga, it does become a little difficult at first to tell which character is speaking and which one isn't, and yeah. But I will say that as you read it further into the series, that does not become a problem, and with that one issue out of the way, I think we can dive into Land of the Lustrous. Now, Land of the Lustrous covers the story of the Lustrous. They are a gem-based society that lives in the far distant future on our own planet, on a single patch of land with their sensei, Congo. Now, Congo is the only humanoid that we really see throughout the entire series for the most part, and the Lustrous are trapped in an endless battle against the Lunarians, a spiritual-based race that lives on the moon and comes to harvest these beautiful gem creatures for decoration and weapons alike. We see this story unfold through the eyes of our protagonist, Phosphophilite, or Phos, as Phos suffers through feelings of not belonging and not having a purpose in the group that they are in. Sounds a lot like Steven, does it not? Who himself struggled with being accepted as a crystal gem throughout the entire first half of the series, really, culminating when him and Amethyst fused into Smoky Quartz. Us worst gems gotta stick together, right?
Us worst gems stick together, right?
Before he finally fell into his groove. Now, Phos sadly does not fall into her groove, and we see this throughout the series in season 1. She really is trying. Now, I am going to play fast and loose with the pronouns of the Lustrous because they're referred to as he in the manga and she in the anime, so it does get a little confusing on what to properly call them. And using they, them pronouns will just get a little bit more confusing as we talk about more of the characters, which there are a lot. Land of the Lustrous has a huge cast of characters that you fall in love with throughout, not unlike Steven Universe itself, from the ever-intelligent Rutile or the gorgeous and radiant Diamond. And Diamond is a character that I would like to speak on just very brief. Diamond is the first gem that we see have these kind of feelings of self-deprecation, right? These gems have lived for thousands upon thousands of years and have never known the concept of death. And because of that, and because they live such a routine, basic lifestyle, they find it hard to process greater emotions such as depression and other mental ailments. But nonetheless, Land of the Lustrous covers so much time in such a short amount of time, and the world building is just gorgeous. Every time you get new scenes of the Lunarians and the gems fighting, you want more, and you want to see what else is out there for this universe as you learn about other species that also exist along this timeline, not unlike Steven Universe itself. Now, Steven Universe first went into pre-production back in 2011, I believe, from what we know of the history of the series from Rebecca Sugar's own notes and art books. I will put the exact date on screen somewhere. And Land of the Lustrous came around about the same time, with Ichikawa pre-planning the series in 2009 or 10, and it being published eventually in October of 2012. So a really cool moment of parallel thinking. But one thing that surprised me entirely, in light spoilers, is that the entire series of Land of the Lustrous is about change, not unlike Steven Universe. And this is the selling point I have, because in Land of the Lustrous, we see the negative effects that change can do to someone. Foss's journey, even through this first season that I want you all to watch as a trailer to get you into the manga, sees her unrecognizable by the end of the season.
That's perfect and cute, dignified.
Dealing with loss and regret and not being able to fill promises to certain people that she has extended them to. And it creates this very great emotional turmoil within the show. Not only that, but as a series, the animation to Land of the Lustrous is gorgeous. Every single gem casts its own shadow among itself in these dazzling displays of dynamic lighting that shines across their entire bodies. And I have to give it to Studio Orange, considering this was their first animated project where it was full 3D. And not only that, they adapted the manga perfectly. There are scenes in the manga that flow exactly how they do within the show. Now, to talk more about what happens within season 1, we see, as I say, Foss become the historian, right? She's finally given a job, a purpose within this society she lives, of being the historian who will completely write out what goes on and what is happening on this great plateau, this one piece of land that these gems have to live on this world. And as I said, this is our world taking place in a very, very distant future after being visited by 6 stars that became moons. So Foss becomes this historian, and this leads her to meeting Cinnabar. Now, Cinnabar is one of the most tragic characters I've ever read in fiction. She is forced to live alone because of the nature of her gemstone. It is highly toxic and corrosive to those around her. But Foss makes a promise to find her a use that will allow her to be within the group. And this sets in motion the chain of events that will lead through the entire story of Land of the Lustrous. All Foss wants to do is fight, just like all Steven wanted to do was fight alongside the crystal gems. And I see a lot of parallels within the character, especially, as I said, when it comes to the nature of the series as a whole. Steven changed for the better, and he constantly bettered himself, not only as a human being, but as a gem, to stand and protect those he loves and those he thought were worth fighting for, which in Steven's eyes is everyone. Foss, as well, wanted to protect and help those around her to be useful to everyone within their circle. The difference is in between how each character's accepted it. Now, Steven eventually folded to the trauma and the pressure of being the leader, right? Being the one in command, as we saw in Steven Universe Future.
And then I got attacked by a giant bug monster, and I got trapped in a bubble and almost drowned. I lost control of my body and turned into a blob of cats.
But eventually Steven was able to get the help he needed to move past that trauma. Now, Foss, on the other hand, without getting too deep into the end of the series, does not get through that trauma properly. She does not have that safety net, and helping everyone else around her, everyone seems to have forgotten about Foss. And to see the story series start where it starts and end where it ends is something that everyone out there needs to experience for themselves completely. Now, I know I've kind of jumped around all over the place, but it's because I'm trying not to give away anything. This series is very complex and has emotional depths that exceed that of what we saw in Steven Universe, which is another reason I wanted to get on here and recommend it to other Steven Universe fans, because while Steven Universe can definitely scratch that emotionally intelligent itch, Land of the Lustrous takes it just one step further, and with the familiar setting of a gem society that all of us have come to love within the Steven Universe fandom, it really is something that is easy to digest, especially if you're not usually one to watch anime or read the manga. Now, as I said, I think you should definitely watch the anime and then read the manga. The anime season ends right around chapter 30 of the manga, so if you want to pick it up, that's where you want to start reading after you watch the season. And throughout that first season, you're going to meet gems that sound familiar to you. The Amethyst twins are two that come to mind. Rutile, which I had mentioned earlier, which they call her Rutile in this. I know in Steven Universe they call her Rutile, but Rutile is her name in Land of the Lustrous. But then you also get gems that we didn't get in Steven Universe, like Euclides and stuff, that it makes you wonder, what would they look like in that universe? So I think that having that familiarity of a similar structure of world building to go off of, especially when it comes to that supernatural element that the gems are, or would it be science fiction element that the gems are? Either way, it really helps you kind of get into the series a little bit easier. And while there is some amazing action within Land of the Lustrous, just as there is some awesome action within Steven Universe itself, that is not the main focus. And that was what really sold me on the series. Because just like in Steven Universe, the main focus is not what's going on around them, it is the characters themselves. Every single story beat and every single revelation throughout the series is exposed through the development of other characters. Throughout the winter, in the back half of this first season, we see Phos meet Antark, a gem made of liquid that is only solid in frigid temperatures, so they are the only gem on winter duty, finally being joined by another gem this year within Phos. And the relationship that develops between these two is outstanding and really does set a precedence for the rest of the series. So I'm excited to see what you guys think of it without getting too into it. But the relationship between Phos and Antark is what kind of starts to unfold the story at large. And it is just so well done. And once again, I have to give it to Ichikawa for delivering such an emotionally driven and character driven series. So yeah, final thoughts. I think that if you enjoy the emotional and almost traumatic aspects of Steven Universe, you are going to love Land of the Lustrous. This is one that hurts, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This story will break you, but nonetheless, especially if you're Steven Universe fans, this is it. This is the manga that will get you into manga, or the anime that will get you into anime. But I have to urge you, once you watch that 13 episode season of the anime, you have to dive in completely. You have to dive in completely with the manga. You have to finish this story, and it's a sweet, easy read of only about, I want to say 108 chapters. I'll put the actual number up on screen, which if you are a manga fan, you know isn't that long for a series. So yeah, as I said, I did have a bit of a channel update as well. From here on until the end of the year, I'll be doing bi-weekly releases for Rambling Addiction instead of weekly. It's been 2 months since I dropped my last video, and that is just because this fall has been very, very hectic in my real life, and it's been hard to get here and sit down and actually record a video. I've had this Land of the Lustrous Steven Universe video planned for 2 months since I dropped my Goodnight Pun Pun video. That said, I'm very glad to be back, and I appreciate your guys' patience with me. I'm going to be doing a full series review on Land of the Lustrous very soon. Going to be finishing out Hunter x Hunter as a series review as well. I've got so many things to say. I'm not gonna lie, I meant to do the 13th chairman election arc already, but I got so sucked into the manga that I just couldn't. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just glad to be back, and like I said, Rambling Addiction, at least until the end of the year, maybe a little bit into 2026, will be a bi-weekly release as I'm getting back into it after these rough few months, I won't lie. But yeah, go read Land of the Lustrous. Like I said, one of the most phenomenal, breathtaking series I have ever read in my life. It is a 10 out of 10. And I cannot recommend it enough. And if you are a Steven Universe fan, do it. Go out there and read this, because you will not be disappointed. But yeah, I know this one was a little all over the place. It's because I was trying really hard not to spoil anything big for the plot, and I just really wanted to give out a little bit of moments here and there to catch your interest, so you would want to dive into the series as a whole. More importantly, though, than anything else I've said in this entire video, I want you guys out there to have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I'll see you again real soon.